Well, I will call the special meeting of the Board of Selectmen together for Monday, May 4th, 2020. Required by, even though we're all sitting in our homes, I'm going to call for, lead you in the Pledge of Allegiance, seeing as how that is part of our charter. So
I'll bring the flag.
There you go.
My wife, you know, is part of the DAR, so.
yes, that's right.
we get
All right. I pledge allegiance to the
allegiance
flag
to the
To the flag,
United States
United
of
States of
America,
America,
and to the
and to
republic
the
for which
republic
it
for which it stands, one nation,
nation,
under God,
indivisible, with liberty
with
and
liberty and
justice
justice
for all.
for all.
All right, that was excellent. It's a good thing we're not a choir. That's all I got to say. All right, first order of business is consideration of approval of the minutes of the meeting of April 21st. These are posted. They were actually posted late on the material link, but they've been up on the website since April 23rd. So has everybody had a chance to read those?
Yep.
Okay.
Make a motion, we approve.
Look at my lava lamp.
Okay.
Hey,
So Rich made the motion.
I'll second it.
second. All right, Paul seconded. Any comments, any corrections? And
No.
hearing none, I'll try your minds. Those in favor, raise your hand.
Aye.
All right, that motion carries. First Selectmen's report. There's really, I'm sure everybody's been reading the news lately. The only thing I wanted to cover is the ongoing efforts at the state level to put together a schedule for reopening. So the governor has announced a number of things that will begin to gradually reopen effective on May 20th. That would include some personal services like hair and nail salons, some restaurants. Yeah, there's a lot of people who need a haircut out here, me included. Some recreation that's not already open, restaurants as long as they can operate outside. And there's some additional guidance coming to Janice Christianik's office about whether or not they can have outdoor alcohol at the same time, because that wasn't very clear. University studies, things of that nature. It is dependent on continuing to bend the curve. Right now, there are still new cases coming on board, but the rate of new infections continues to be smaller every day. The rate of hospitalizations has actually dropped, and hospital capacity at this point is beginning to increase a little bit. So as long as those trends continue, then that some of those reopenings should begin to occur on the 20th. Governor's office has outlined a phased reopening in 4 main phases, starting from this one. They anticipate, or they would like, if they can structure it this way, if the numbers keep looking good, they would like very much to move to each phase in 30-day increments. So, so we can expect by the end of June, if things continue to improve, there should be some lessening of restrictions, and then so on and so forth. So when we get into the late summer and fall months, if things go well, and that is an if, the governor's office has stressed several times that we have to keep doing what we're doing and keep the social distancing in place, keep the safety measures in place, so we can get to that point. For our part in town hall, we are going to be, I had already started a phased approach to safely let the public back into town hall. So we're basically going to align our efforts with the state so that our 30-day increments stay the same. And just to reiterate, I think I mentioned this last time, we've had a company come in, they're measuring all the counter areas for safety shields to protect the staff from the public. And we may implement the same kind of a name badge program that's used in the schools, so that when people come into the office, they would get a visitor's badge. And it's not so much for, you know, like it's a different kind of security. It's not for the same reason they do it in the schools, but for contact tracing, which the State Department of Health is now doing. If somebody were to become sick, we would be required to know who had been in the building and who had gone to what offices. So we're looking at those systems.
Would it be advisable for you to perhaps get the device to measure their temperature?
You know, I'm waiting for some advice from the Department of Public Health on that.
Yeah,
You know, that some places were doing that before we got to the major lockdown, like earlier in March.
right.
And there's some mixed opinions about that. Some of the doctors think that that can give you a false reading. Because some, you know, they can say, okay, you're fine and you're asymptomatic, but you're still a carrier. So we still need some guidance on that. Now, one topic I do want to touch on very briefly. I did literally about a half an hour ago. I got an email from Denise Merrill's office, Secretary of the State, and I will forward that to you later. I didn't have time to download it before we started this meeting. This is the Secretary of the State's plan for safe elections. It's 10 pages long and it's very detailed. It was created with input from the Town Clerks Association, from the registrars all around the state, and it outlines the Secretary's vision of how we can reopen polling places and do it safely so that people are not put at risk. And that leads me into the final topic I wanted to talk about. There was an awful lot of pressure being put, not only here in Bethel, but around the state, on elected officials who want to have a referendum on their budget. And I understand that. So there's a couple of points I want to make about that. Number one, it was, if you have been following the governor's executive orders, the one that was issued in the middle of March, 7I, pretty firmly said that having, just for towns that have town meeting government like ours with automatic referendums, town meetings and referendums, that order was pretty firm in that it required us to pass a budget without a town meeting, without a referendum. Then there was some confusion with the subsequent order that came out a week and a half later that appeared to open the door to referendums. So the different organizations, CCM and Council of Small Towns, and even the Town Attorneys Association asked the state for clarification and say, which way do you want us to go? So over the weekend, the governor released the most recent order, which is 7HH, like Henry, which you can find online. And it very clearly closes the door. It said, while the restrictions are in place for the safety of poll workers and voters alike, town meeting government will not have a referendum this year. And, you know, obviously we hope that that's not the case forever. I don't think it will be. Nothing really changes. This is a temporary order. But that came out Friday night, and it is absolutely clear that we're going to proceed without a referendum. And let me, you know, a lot of people want to make this about our local government and why we don't push back on that. For one thing, and I'm just going to express my personal view on this. As long as you can't put 5 people in a room, it's simply not possible to have a safe referendum. And that is exactly why the state of Connecticut took the step of taking the presidential primary and pushing it first to June 2nd, and then all the way back to August 11th. Because if the state of Connecticut, through the Office of Policy and Management, through the Secretary of the State's office, through the Public Health Office, if they don't believe they can have a safe election process, then we sure as heck can't have 2 or 3 or 4,000 people vote in a referendum and have that be risk-free as well. A lot of discussion was held about the town of Vernon, which at this point was the only town in Connecticut, we checked this out, that had what they called a creative town meeting where they had a drive-through vote. I can't find anybody who believes that any such thing could be done here. That drive-through vote had only 110 cars go through it, and it was a single issue, not a 4-part ballot like we would have if we had a full referendum. And I don't even know how it could be considered a valid process. It was basically just a town meeting with a thumbs up or a thumbs down. But you have to, in order to do something like that, you still have to have people in a room running the scanners. The voter would have no idea if their vote was recorded correctly. They would have no security. They would have no privacy on their vote. You would have no way to have a recount on a vote. The voter who's sitting in their car would have no way to know, even if somebody filled out a ballot for them, did that ballot get recorded properly or not? The logistics and just the security make it completely not feasible to run in any kind of a sensible manner. So it's a moot point because the most recent orders clearly say that that none of our towns will be having a referendum this year, but I just wanted to give my thoughts on that. So that's it for the first selectman's report. Paul and Rich, you have anything you want to add?
Yeah, I do. I've been getting
Okay,
a lot
go
of
ahead, Paul.
pushback about that whole thing, but I understand what you've said. But the pushback that I'm really getting is the fact that I guess tomorrow night we don't have a Board of Selectmen's meeting.
Yeah.
And people that have called me up and sent me emails have said, hey, how about tonight? Although it's a special meeting, can I speak? And normally at these special meetings, we don't allow that.
Mm-hmm.
We've allowed it before. I don't know if I don't see any numbers at the bottom of my screen here. How many people are listening in? Do you
There's-
have a number?
There's 3 people listening.
Oh, no. Maybe it's mute, but you know, I think, well, I guess it's next week, the 12th, the Board of Finance is having a meeting where they can, where public comments will be taken. But even at that, I was just going to hope that tonight, maybe if there was more than these 3, have them speak up relative to the budget itself. I understand the governor's newest executive order, which just commands the fact that Board of Finance is basically going to establish the budget after the public hearing, that is. But I know the thing is that I just don't want to shut out the public from speaking out tonight.
Well, I would prefer not to. You know, we get criticized if we bend the rules. You know, if you either follow the rules or you don't. But I did commit to one person who wrote to me that if possible, there would be an opportunity for us to have another meeting with public input before the 12th. And what I said to her was I'd take that under advisement.
Okay.
So I understand. You know, just while we're on the topic, it's worth noting that you know, our public health department examined the risk factors, and this goes back many weeks ago. They looked at the risk factors of running polling places. The CDC has issued guidance on it. There's really a very substantial risk of having a traditional polling operation. And if you've been watching the state numbers that are reported every day, I've been feeding them into a spreadsheet that I put together. When you get to the, I'm going to call it the upper age levels, the risk, it magnifies tremendously. Over the age of 80, right now, 30% of the people who catch this virus pass away. And that's just coming right from the state numbers. It's an extremely dangerous thing. And of course, if you look at our poll workers, the majority of them are retired folks who are very civic minded and they like to help their town. I mean, you know, they get paid for it, but they do it because it's part of the process. They believe in democracy. And also you look at the voters. We have 14% of our registered voters are over the age of 65. And of course, we have voters in their 70s, 80s, even 90s, even a few over 100. I don't think it's fair to ask people to put their lives at risk to come in to vote. And you have to, it even exposes towns to a lawsuit if people have to choose between obeying the governor's orders that nobody, no more than 5 people are in a room versus exercising your right to vote. So it's really a difficult situation this year. And the only thing I can say is I hope and pray that it's not like this next year. But for this year, we have an opportunity because of the governor's order to move ahead. And by the way, in case the question comes up, it's not possible to move it past the 15th. That order was discussed, and the governor's office has no appetite for changing rules for individual towns. So that order is going to stay the way it is. So that's the best we can do this year. And then we'll go back to normal next year, and hopefully there's no more pandemic at that time. So any other comments? Rich, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, I just like to shout out, to our first responders. And last week I was downtown and they had the little parade that went through. So, they're really our frontline people out there, and we really appreciate everything that they do.
Yep, thank you for that. All right, thank you very much for your comments, Rich and Paul. I'm going to move on to appointment to the Ethics Commission. Paul, did you have that letter from the BRTC, or you want me to read that?
Go ahead, read it.
Okay, so this is on the website, but I have a letter here. This is to fill the vacancy left by Ray Gershio, who left the Ethics Commission a couple of weeks ago. So I'm going to read this letter from Brian Terzian on behalf of the Bethel Republican Town Committee. And it says, on behalf of the Bethel Republican Town Committee, I'm pleased to submit the recommendation to appoint William Kingston of 11 Ditmar Road to fill the vacant seat on the Ethics Commission formerly occupied by Ray. So I will put a motion on the floor that we appoint Mr. Kingston, who has served the town in many capacities, and I'm very grateful for his service and willingness to step up to the plate again.
I'll second that.
Okay. Any discussion? No. So those in favor, raise your hand. Say aye. Aye. So that motion carries unanimously. And I'd like to congratulate and thank Bill Kingston for rejoining town government. He served on the Board of Ed, on the Board of Finance, and I think on a couple of appointed committees too. So we're very, very grateful for his volunteerism. Item number 5 is just basically reading into the record. As required by charter, anybody who is appointed to a commission must reveal if they have any potential conflicts with their personal business. So Mr. Dave Pinenberg, who was recently appointed to the Park and Rec Commission, wrote to let the Board of Selectmen know that in the past his company has done some work for the Bethel Parks, for Park and Recreation Department. So he has written as required by charter to notify us that he has in the past. He's not currently performing any services for the Bethel Parks and Rec Department, but in the past he has. So I acknowledged his letter and just reminded him that in the event that his firm is eligible to bid on any projects, that he should contact the town attorney to ensure that the bid process is blind, and that when the selection process is underway, he should not only recuse himself from voting, but physically leave the room so he's not present, which he readily agreed to do. So I just want to, I'm going to put a motion on the floor that we formally accept his letter of acknowledgement of his business operation, just so it's in the record and there's no question in the future. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any questions? Any comments? Hearing none?
I have
Yeah.
Is Marty okay with this?
Yes, as long as, I have a copy of the email that Matt had previously sent him, which he just talked about, and as long as that's followed, it shouldn't be a problem.
Okay.
All right. So we have a motion on the floor to accept the letter of disclosure from Dave Pinenberg. Those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that motion carries. Okay, item number 6, the last item on our agenda is consideration of appointment to the position of Chief of Police. And I'm going to put a motion on the floor that I'm going to put a motion on the floor in a minute that we go into executive session. I do want to tell the folks, the three folks who are here, that when we go into executive session, you will be placed in something called the Zoom waiting room, which we just discovered is applicable to executive sessions. You are welcome to wait until we're done with the executive session, and then we'll come back into live session to take any actions that come out of the discussion in executive session. So at this point, let's see, it is
7:20.
7:20. I'm going to make a motion that we enter executive session, inviting in Captain Stephen Pugner of the Bethel Police Department, Mrs. Craig, and Town Attorney Lawler. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Okay, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, announce that we are officially out of executive session now. We are in open session. And I am very pleased and honored to put a motion on the floor that the Board of Selectmen appoint Captain Stephen Pugner to the position of Chief of Police upon the departure for retirement of Chief Jeffrey Finch.
Second.
Okay.
I'm just asking, do we need the date July 9th in there?
Oh, yes, we do. Yeah,
Okay.
actually make that July 10th.
July 10th? Okay, so will you just repeat the motion then?
I am pleased and honored to put into a motion that we appoint Captain Stephen Pugner to the position of Chief of Police effective July 10th, 2020, upon the retirement of Chief Jeffrey Finch.
And I'll repeat my second.
Okay, yep, Rich?
If you could put both of us second it, because we're both in agreement of Steve.
All righty.
All right, we've got a double second. Excellent. All right, any other comments before we vote?
No.
No? Okay. All right, then I'll try your minds. Those in favor of appointing Captain Pugner to the position of Chief on July 10th, please raise your hand, say aye.
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 Aye. That motion carries. Captain, congratulations.
Thank you.
I know you've worked very hard for this, and we wish you the best of luck. And I also want to say that I want to congratulate Chief Finch on an outstanding career as a police officer. He's been with us, I think, for 17 years. Is that correct, Steve?
22.
22. Okay. He is a patrol officer who rose through the ranks, went to officer, became an officer, became what you call the brass. He has distinguished himself in so many ways. He's had so many positive impacts on our department. Our department was one of the first in the state to be accredited by CALEA. He has brought professionalism and outstanding management to the department. And has been a real asset to the town of Bethel. So I want to congratulate Chief Finch on his absolutely stellar career with the town of Bethel, and even before that. He has really done great work for the town, and we're very, very grateful for his expertise, his guidance, and his leadership. Not to mention that he kept the police station on the front burner through 4 different selectmen until it finally came to a vote, and we have that building nearly done today. So congratulations to Captain Pugner, and thank you. We are very grateful to Chief Finch for his many years of service to the town. And with that, I will get ready to close the meeting. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Thank you very much, everybody. You have a wonderful evening. And again, congratulations, Steve. Wish
Thank
the
you,
best.
guys. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.